Okay, so this presentation, sorry, got it. This presentation was actually prepared by one of my colleagues in Treasury, who's the contract owner, and he unfortunately is on leave today and wasn't able to come and present himself. So basically the contract has been split across a number of contractors by region, but within Sydney we've just got the one main contractor providing the bulk of waste services, and that is Suez. And they provide a general waste service, which is your red bin lids, and construction waste or end of term clean out skip bins for sort of bulk quantities of general waste. They provide a paper and cardboard recycling service if it's requested. They can provide mixed or commingled recycling, and they can provide a food and garden organic service. And then by arrangement, they can also service other streams such as grease traps or chemicals, e-waste and those types of things. At that stage, that hasn't been our focus. We've been basically switching over from old contractors to this new contractor, and still quite early days, but most of Sydney now would have been transitioned over. And I should sort of mention the other contractor that is in use in the Sydney region is Grace for confidential paper and cardboard waste and other types of confidential media. Again, they're the locked bin services. So we're getting a number of questions. Now, I guess one of the things, well, a couple of things have impacted the rollout of this new contract. Obviously, COVID's had some impact. It's certainly slowed down to some extent the rate of rolling things out. Not so much because bins can't be swapped over, because they can even if the school's not really populated, but it certainly makes the communication with schools a lot more difficult because head office were sort of told to drastically limit the amount of information going out to schools at that time. So what that has meant is it's been harder to communicate the opportunities presented by this new contract. And there are a range of benefits, as I mentioned. Obviously, it's quite competitive across the whole state. When there's swings and roundabouts when you change over anything as complex as we have with 2,200 schools. But overall, it's anticipated that this should drive quite significant cost savings for the whole department, which after COVID and all the stimulus, they're very keen to realise. So some of the questions that we are getting asked is firstly, and this is where this conversation started with the council reps here today, is that if you have services already provided by council, particularly commingled recycling, do you need to change? Now, Treasury's position is that you only need to change if there's issues with the current council service. That's not the case if you're using other commercial contractors. So, for example, if you're using Remondis or someone other than Suez in the Sydney region, then yes, you would be required to change if you wanted to continue offering that service. In some cases, if the contractor isn't able to offer that service, which is not likely in Sydney, it becomes more of an issue when you're talking about remote regions where there's less infrastructure. In Sydney, it's highly unlikely to be a problem, but if for some reason Suez weren't able to offer a particular stream, they may then look at subcontracting themselves, but they would still be overseeing the contract and the invoicing would come from Suez. So that's the sort of the position of Treasury. I guess from a departmental point of view, our preference is to see everyone transition over to fully using the contract. And the reason for that is that another benefit offered from this new contract is much better data collection and much more comprehensive waste reporting. So we've never had a lot of visibility of waste generation across the department, and it makes it quite complicated when we're doing things like our GREP reporting, which all government agencies are required to report against our resource efficiency. but it also makes it hard for us to understand, you know, waste benchmarks and where there might be particular schools where there are opportunities to perhaps target and work with on waste minimisation initiatives. So we are very keen to see as many schools as possible fully pick up the whole of government contract, so that we get that comprehensive reporting and it's covering all the different waste streams. Because what we're particularly keen to see over time is that we move away from the amount of waste going to landfill, and we see a much greater proportion of waste being recycled or converted to compost, or, you know, whatever else, however else it can be diverted. Another really common question is people are interested in what are the opportunities for the return and earn, or the container deposit scheme, which, as you probably all be aware, is, you know, where you get 10 cents back for your drink bottles and cans. Now there's 3 options available to schools who want to use that service. The first is that, and this is probably the most common at the moment, is that schools arrange their own collection, they arrange their own bins, and someone, it might be a teacher, it might be someone from the P&C, it could be some other volunteer, takes that waste to those bottle bank type services, the big shipping containers, and the vouchers get spat out and they can then be used by the school for whatever purpose the school wants. And sometimes schools run things like, you know, pizza nights for the kids who've been involved in waste initiatives. The second option is that there are a number of charity and community groups who will come and collect it, and essentially they keep the money that they raise. So they provide a service to the school. One of the advantages of putting your waste through that, in addition to the money that you can generate, is that it's a much cleaner recycling stream, and so there's a much higher probability that anything collected through return and earn is going to actually be converted into another product, as opposed to a lot of commingled recycling services often have quite high rates of contamination, and that can mean that whole loads get landfilled because they're just too contaminated. It's a really common problem, not in schools specifically, but in general. And then the other alternative is that you do use the contractor, and in that case they will keep a portion of the waste. So they will keep 3 cents per container for themselves to cover the services, and then they'll pass on the 7 cents to the school. Problem, well, not the problem, but I guess the issue, if you choose to go down that path, it's certainly convenient, but the money will basically be credited against the invoice to the school. So the school will save the money, but it's not sort of delivered as cash that can then be used for student incentives and the like. It sort of gets lost a little bit in the budget. But they're your 3 options. So if you are keen to pursue the third option, then I'll talk through how basically who to communicate to, depending on what sort of question or what sort of issue you want to raise within the department. That's the next slide. And then in terms of the food and garden organic service, okay, you've got 3 options again. The first, you look at somehow composting that waste on the grounds, or using things like chicken coops as well. But certainly for big schools that can be difficult and might not be possible to compost the entire quantity of waste on the grounds. It's certainly a solution that tends to work better for small schools. The next option is that you use a service provided by council for food and organics, if that service is available, and, you know, obviously usually coming at a commercial rate. And the final option is that you ask Suez to provide the organics waste. Then obviously what you need to be mindful of, whether you ask them for either a commingled yellow recycling bin or the green waste bins, or both, that you need to obviously have your waste segregation systems in place. So you'll need to ensure you've got proper bin stations. You'll need to ensure that there's signage so that everyone's quite clear what goes in what, and particularly, you know, commingled bins actually explaining what kinds of plastics are or aren't able to be recycled. you need to then obviously ensure that that information is also being passed on to the students and to the staff, and that the cleaner's been consulted and that they're comfortable to absorb any changes that are required to their practices. So there's quite a bit of planning and preparation that needs to go in place before you just sort of assume you're going to have this service. My team, and I've got Megan Shaw, who's on this meeting, she'll be involved in this. We're working on developing things like bin signage. And unfortunately, the challenge again is we can't just do generic signage. We need to customise it by region, and we need to sort of understand in particular regions exactly what is or isn't able to be recycled. So it's not unfortunately quite a one size fits all approach. But as I said, because of COVID and lockdowns across a big chunk of the state, it's not something that we've been trying to communicate. So we'll be coming out early in the new year with messaging about, you know, if you wish to do these things, here are some resources available to you, and try and streamline it as much as we can. Yeah, so they're basically the options. And again, as I said, while you do have the option to continue using council, and in some cases that may be easier, you may get some pushback if you do ask Sue. But we would certainly like to know where you do have any difficulties accessing any of those recycling streams, because it is a contractual requirement. There needs to be, I guess, a certain amount of demand to make it viable for them to offer services in particular regions. But again, that's not really an issue in Sydney. That's much more the case outside of Sydney. So it shouldn't really affect anyone in this meeting today. So if you would like more information, if it's a general contractual question, the best point of contact is Suez or Grace, and their contact numbers are here. And I'll share this presentation with the meeting organisers, so you'll be able to access that. There'll also be information on the department website. We're just updating a whole lot of sustainability content on the website. We'll be putting that up in the next sort of couple of weeks. So contact details and the like will be available there too. If you've got issues to do with the transition, or you can't resolve the issue with the contractor, then the first point of contact is your asset services officer. And if they can't resolve it, they will escalate it to our procurement team. And if they're not able to resolve it, they will take it back to Treasury as the overall contract owner. If it's a question relating to invoicing and payment after the new contract has commenced, you can try to resolve it with the waste contractor, and failing that, you can call or log a job with EdConnect. And then if you've got general questions about sustainability, things such as, you know, what's the best way to do a compost bin at the school, or, you know, are there particular bins that we use, or whatever, you can, I'm sorry, when I say bins, I mean composting equipment, not the contractual bins. You can email sustainability.inquiries, which is quite likely that Megan will be the one responding to your query. And we try to turn things around fairly quickly, but it just depends, because we have so many schools. Sometimes we'll get a glut and it might take us a while to get back to everybody. There's also information on the By New South Wales website about the contract itself, which probably might be a little bit more detailed than most people need. But as I said, keep an eye out, because we will be providing more content about waste on our website, and we'll continue to expand that as we do more work. So that's all I had today. Did anyone have any questions?
Holly had a question about Turn and Earn services. Holly, did you want to unmute yourself?
Hi there. Hi. I'm just a teacher at Scots College, and we currently use Lane Co for Turn and Earn. But I haven't. We've just got one bottle bin. I still need to get some more going on with organisation to make it a bit wider scale. But I have not been able to organise regular collections for pickup, so we're often overflowing. And so I'm just kind of wondering about the charities that you mentioned, because we'd be more than happy to give any of the earnings from that scheme to a charity. But yeah.
Okay, and you said you're Scots College, so you're not actually part of our department. I can ask my contact in Treasury for some names, and I can pass them on to Vicky, and she might be able to forward them to you separately. There's none I can recommend off the top of my head because again, they operate in different areas. But yeah, I'll take that on notice and come back to Vicky with an answer.
I think that's probably definitely best actually, because as you say, you know, it's late afternoon now. It'd be better to have it on an email, then I can make sure we've got everything in place when I've got those contacts. Yeah, that would be really handy. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks, Holly. Does anybody else have a question for Fiona about the list of money?
Yes, I had a question, sorry, just on the back of Holly's. I'm also from an independent school, so if that detail can also be sent to me, that would be amazing. And also the return and earn bin, is that mentioned on here? I think it is, but is that for us as well?
We'll be hearing from Exchange for Change, who works with Return and Earn, and also ReCollect a bit later on, and they'll go into more details about those services, so you'll be able to ask questions there. Okay,
thanks. As long as I can just get those clarities.
Yeah, I'll share everything that we get from all the presenters. We'll share with everybody here.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Just one thing to add, I guess, for people about the composting stuff. We will speak around composting on-site solutions at the end on our council slides, because we have got that program in place with Compost Revolution locally. So yeah, any questions about that's good to come direct to us, because we'll give you free stuff. So better us in this instance, because we'll give you free bins if you want to do stuff on site.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much, Fiona.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Would you like to just unshare your screen now, Fiona? Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Charles Rawlinson, who's a circular economy consultant who works on the bintrim programme, and he's helped lots of schools apply for funding through bintrim. So bintrim is a New South Wales government programme that provides help and support to businesses to improve recycling and reduce waste. Charles, would you like to go ahead and share your screen?
Can you see that, Vicky?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, great. So yeah, thanks for the introduction, and happy to be here. I've worked personally on the bintrim program for 2.5 years, and MRA has been doing the bintrim program for over 6 years since its inception. Bintrim is a program aimed at diversion of waste from landfill to assist businesses, but also that includes private schools and childcare centres. At the moment, public schools aren't included in the bintrim program, but we're actually in an interim phase between 2 different rounds of bintrim. So bintrim will become live again in 2022, most likely in the second half of the year, and it's possible that the public sector will be included in the program, but for the moment it's just private schools and childcare centres. So just a brief overview of what bintrim is. It's a community education program that's focused on recycling. It's part of the business recycling unit of the New South Wales EPA. It's about diverting waste from landfill, so getting as many of the recyclables that are in the red top bin or the general waste bin into other recycling streams. By doing that, you're increasing the recycling rate of your school or childcare centre, and also the morale of staff members we've found has increased with this program. By recycling, you're reducing the harmful greenhouse gas emissions that are caused from landfilling. For context, landfill emits potent methane, which is 25 times more potent to the greenhouse than carbon dioxide is. So schools can reduce their impact on the environment, and also the costs associated with landfilling, which I'll go into shortly. So by doing so, it assists in the creation of a circular economy. to remake and reuse different resources. So this is what we found at a commercial level, the cost benefit of the bintrim program. So if you scroll across, you can see that the commingled recycling, paper, cardboard, and generally food organics as well are all much lower in cost than the general waste bins. And that's driven by the New South Wales waste levy. So the waste levy is imposed per tonne on waste disposed of in landfill, and that's imposed on by the New South Wales EPA. So basically any recycling stream that schools are able to use, they're actually also saving their costs because they're not paying that waste levy that's imposed statewide across New South Wales. So there's a cost benefit analysis for any recycling ventures that schools take. Another large part of bintrim are these large stickers. We help businesses with acquiring different contracts and services with waste providers, but also if there are waste contracts or services that schools are already using, we try and make it as simple as possible by providing signage. So these are big A4 stickers, and we've got smaller stickers as well. And that's basically just to help kids with, getting to know what's in that waste stream. So that reduces the contamination of general waste in the recycling streams, but also reduces the leakage of recyclables into the landfill stream. So it goes both ways. So I'm here mostly to talk about rebates. In the last year, we have, in the last round of bintrim, I should say, we submitted 128 rebates, and that was for over $1.3 million of funding for businesses, which include schools. And basically, anything is eligible for a rebate that is under the program diverting waste from landfill. So it can be anything from balers or compost bins. And here on the next slide, you can see a few examples of the equipment that we've got. So these are source separation bins that help kids, again, with that bright signage, to really make sure that there is single stream recyclables in each of the bins and to minimize the contamination. This is an interesting one. This is a picture of a dehydrating unit. So for the schools that have canteens, we've done 2 different of these dehydrating units. What they basically do is they macerate and pulp all of the organic waste, and then these machines dehydrate it all into a usable compost. So this one pictured here is at PLC school in Croydon, and we've also done one at Knox Grammar School in the Upper North Shore. Here's another one that's a bit different, a chicken coop. Chickens eat organic waste, so therefore if you have a bit of land and you wanted to buy a bunch of chickens, that again would come under the threshold of diverting waste from landfill. This is what's called a sub pod. It's basically an in-bed grow system where worms will come up through the bottom of the sub pod and through cracks and holes in the plastic, and then you can grow different herbs, vegetables, flowers around the outside, and it really engages the community with recycling, because you can see the impact of composting on the greenery. So these are the 3 objectives of the bintrim program. Like I said, it's the avoiding the generation of waste. So that's not just diverting waste, but that's actually avoiding waste. So we have done rebates for hand dryers. So if you are using paper towels, for instance, and you wanted to avoid the generation of that paper towel waste, then that also comes under the program. So you can really see how it's quite open to a bit of creativity in terms of, you know, the funding applications that we draft on behalf of businesses. Diversion of waste from landfill, and also increasing the recycling rate. If we know that one. So yeah, these are some interesting case studies that I wanted to include in the presentation. This is at Richard Johnson Anglican School, and it's a small personalised reverse vending machine. It's already been touched on, the return and earn and how that engages you know, kids with recycling. So this is basically a way of engagement and also diverting waste from landfill. So that comes under the program. So this machine, it's a smaller version of the bigger machines that some of you would have used. You know, it sorts the containers into 2 different areas. So you've got your aluminium cans and your PET bottles. And then everything that goes through this machine is eligible for a 10-cent rebate. And this school also donates all of the revenue generated from this recycling venture to charity, which is a really positive outcome. The other case study that I've mentioned before is organics recycling. So here we have PLC, and this machine is what I mentioned. So that's the dehydrating unit, but also these sub pods are another way of diverting organic waste. And I did notice that Fiona didn't mention that it was mandated that organic waste is going to be included in the contract. And that is something that is very likely to happen over the next 5 or 10 years with the state government's recycling initiatives. And yeah, I'll include my email and also our email in the comment sections. And unfortunately, we're in a lull period. So the bintrim program for round 4 finished in July, and it will restart again sometime next year. But I'll include a link to the website so you can stay up to date with that. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Charles. I didn't realise you could fund chicken cooks and hand dryers. That's yeah, it's really cool. Is there anybody got any questions? Yes, Emma.
Sorry, hi. I'm just curious, I asked in the chat, but if we have available funding, sorry, I'm from Randwick Public School. If we have available funding, would it be possible to purchase certain things from you despite being part of a public school?
Yeah, so we can definitely put you in touch with the sellers, but unfortunately you wouldn't be able to sign up to the program.
Yeah.
The program is offline at the moment, but if you did want to, you know, purchase any of these equipment,
yeah,
I'd be happy to put you in contact with the people who sell it. We actually don't sell it or anything like that. We just basically connect the dots so the schools can, you know, progress with their recycling initiatives.
No, I'd be really interested in that, if that would be possible.
Yeah, for sure. I'll leave my contact in the chat, and then you can shoot me an email after.
Fab, thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
And Charles, we might try to get you to give us a few of the key things that you've spoken about and potentially provide suppliers for some of those items. So that could be helpful. Yeah,
for sure. I'll send that to Vicky after this, and that can be circulated amongst all the members.
Terrific, thank you.
Vicky, can I just jump in? Sorry, I can't see my hand clicking. I can't see the hand icon on my thing. You can also email me. We're in conversation with DPI, who run bintrim, about what might happen in education. So we're still exploring what they might provide. And in terms of suppliers, we're also working to get some different kinds of bins and bin stations added to the education catalogues for both janitorial and for office equipment. So that will all be happening in the new year as well. So again, that sustainability.inquiries inbox is a good one if you wanted to ask about those types of things. We can't prescribe buy a particular thing because we need to do a procurement process for that. There's nothing to stop schools picking any bins they like, but we will be over time adding more things to the catalogue to make it a bit easier.
I know Emma was interested in more signage, bin signage. Is that something that you'll have available?
I think that the first point of contact would be Suez to say we do signage for these bins, because they will be happy to give you branded. It will be covered with the Suez logo, but it will also be specifically tailored to whatever they can or can't recycle. So that's first point of contact, and then we will also look at having some downloadable stuff on the department website, on the internet site.
Are there any more questions for Charles?
Hi, Vicky. Yes, sorry, I put my hand up. Charles, I just wanted to clarify, because you said bintrim's on a hiatus at the moment and looking to relaunch sort of midway through next year. I was told the rebates are no longer applicable at the moment either. So there's no rebates if schools wanted to actually buy equipment. So if anything they want to do, they've got to wait until the program relaunches.
That's correct. If you did want the 50% rebate, then you would have to wait until it goes live. But we've had confirmation from the EPA that it is going to relaunch, and the rebate program has been successful, so it's likely to relaunch with that as a part of it. So yeah, just hold on to the horses at the moment.
You don't have a date or anything? Yes.
No date. What we've heard is second half of the year.
Okay.
And just one more clarification. So if they wanted a rebate, do they have to do the bintrim program to then apply for the rebates? They can't just apply for rebates if they want to buy certain equipment.
That's correct. But the bintrim program is just basically boiled down to two assessments: an initial assessment, which visually takes maybe 15 minutes, and it's just to get a profile of all the school's waste, and then we go and put that into an app and then give recommendations on equipment and whatnot. And then once that's been implemented, we come back and then see the impact. So you can really have two different reports where you see the impact of implementing that infrastructure to see what it's actually done.
But so they have to have done the bintrim assessment to apply for the rebates, yes?
One bintrim assessment, that's correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Charles. So we're going to hear from Danielle Smalley, who is the CEO of Exchange for Change. Exchange for Change coordinates the New South Wales Container Deposit Scheme. And I think, Martin, you're going to run Danielle's presentation for her. So would you like to go ahead and do that?
Danielle is actually launching the presentation from her laptop, Vicky.
Okay. So let me just, oh, no, that's the wrong screen, sorry. This is going well. You think I'd know by now. Oh, I actually can't find it. I'm not used to Zoom, so sorry. I should have checked beforehand. I don't know, have you got it there, Marta? Oh, hang on, show all windows, because I've got 300 windows open. There we go. Sorry, everyone.
That's all right.
Okay, let's crack on. So look, thank you. Can everyone see that? Just to check.
Do you want to put it into this presentation mode? Yeah, that one.
Beautiful.
There you go.
So thanks for the opportunity. Oh, now it's just going automatically. This is really fantastic. I have no idea why it's doing that. Okay, let me just, hopefully that will stay still now. Thanks for the opportunity to tap into this network. It's a really great opportunity for us. I'm just going to give a little bit of background about Return and Earn, give a little some examples of how schools are tapping into the potential of Return and Earn. But I think the most important thing that we want to get out of this session is to just connect with you, so that if post this you've got some questions or you want to find out more, please feel free to contact us. And we've got Marta here who's our Community Engagement Officer and works with schools, as I said, to really help them tap into that potential. Exchange for Change, just as background, we coordinate the Return and Earn scheme in partnership with the New South Wales Government and the network operator Tomra Cleanaway. We also coordinate the ACT container deposit scheme, but obviously that's not relevant to you today. So just as a bit of background, look, Return and Earn has been hugely successful. So it started, well, it still is a New South Wales Government initiative that started as reducing litter in our environment. So that's the answer to the question I always get whenever I tell people at dinner parties I work for Return and Earn, why don't you accept wine bottles? Because it's a litter reduction scheme, and so that wine bottles, spirit bottles weren't found in the litter stream, and probably not a question that you'll be getting from your students, I would hope. So as you can see, to date, so it was launched in 2017, at the end of 2017, we've had an extraordinary 6.3 billion containers returned through the scheme, which translates into 2 out of 3 containers, eligible containers that are supplied into New South Wales.
Danielle, we've lost you.
Actually being redeemed, and that's inside recycling. You're able to get that comes back in through Return and Earn as well. And look, really importantly, as well as the environmental benefits, we have great social benefits that are generated through the scheme. So $24.5 million has been returned to community groups, both through donations and through fees for hosting return points. So, you know, an organisation like Binny's runs a business where they have automated depots where they, as one example, where they take the containers back. Okay. So just, it's also become a really loved scheme within New South Wales. So we do research every 6 months, and what we found is that, you know, 88% of people support the scheme. 77% of people in New South Wales have actually participated in the scheme. So that's either through returning containers themselves, but we find that quite a few people save their containers and give them to a school or to their grandchildren. So that's that indirect participation, and 80% of people are satisfied when they do participate in Return and Earn. So very well established. I don't know why it keeps doing that. What we have been focusing on recently is the New South Wales school community, because we think that there are real benefits to the school community. So we did some research recently and we found there's really high awareness. Just over half of the schools in New South Wales are participating, and 80% of the schools have actually started to tap into the potential for fundraising. And that research was done by the A²E², the Australian Association for Environmental Education, who I'm sure you're all aware of. So what are we doing with the school community? In April, in partnership with A²E², we ran that research, but what that's showing is that Return and Earn is becoming a really important platform for schools to both fundraise but also to teach sustainability and the importance of recycling. And I think this is Return and Earn is a really good live example of how individual action collectively can make a really big difference. So 6.3 billion containers is through that individual action that people have been taking. And so, you know, Return and Earn really can encourage the positive recycling behaviours and really raise awareness about recycling and litter reduction, really empower students to take that action. And it can be linked to learning on environmental issues, so recycling and maths, and I'll come in a little bit to some resources that have been developed to support schools do that. But also, and this may not be relevant. Now we've got the whole of government contract, but it has been a way for schools to reduce the amount of waste and the waste collection fees by separating out those eligible containers and actually turning them into a resource rather than waste. So we have met many schools that are participating in Return and Earn and have really successfully run with Return and Earn as part of their sustainability and STEM programs, as well as a source of resourcing. And Marta is out and about talking to those schools all the time. So the Return and Earn network has over, well, it's got 620 return points. 320 of those are those reverse vending machines, which you can see down in the bottom right of the slide, and that's where people can go and feed their containers in individually, and then they get they can have the money deposited into their account, or they get a receipt and they can redeem it at a retailer such as Woolworths. But as well as that, we've got 27 automated depots where you can take, you know, big volumes of material. You might not want to stand there feeding it into the machine, and they can count it very quickly and credit to your account. And Kylie will talk about one of those that's in your local area in a moment. And there's also the over-the-counter. So these are small businesses such as newsagents or corner stores who will accept bags of material from people who want to participate in Return and Earn. In Waverley, Willara and Randwick Council local government areas, there's 2 of those automated depots. So the one that Kylie will talk about is Return It in Matraville, but you also have St George Recyclers, and both those ADs have fundraising and collection services for schools. They can help you set up an ongoing container collection system at your school. Their details are available on the Return and Earn website. And again, Marta can give you sort of more information and tips on how to set up a successful container collection at your school. And we now know that there's a Suez option as well. You can also take your containers to those other over-the-counter collection points or the reverse vending machines. So the over-the-counter are generally for quantities of maybe less than 100, but you know that means that you can avoid the queues at the reverse vending machines and support some local businesses. And the reverse vending machines, they can process up to 500 cans and bottles in any one transaction, but you need to feed them in individually. But it's very, very easy, very convenient in, you know, shopping centre, car parks, convenient locations. It's also a good way to fundraise. So, you know, teachers, students, parents can support the school collection by taking the containers to their local reverse vending machine. We have many schools who participate in as a local donation partner, and that gives them the opportunity to be featured on those machines for a period of 6 months. So when you return your containers, you can press the option for you to receive the funds, or there's an option to donate to a local charity. And so if you wanted to be a local donation partner, there is a form that you can download on the Return and Earn website, and you can apply to be a local donation partner. Schools can also create a unique barcode that they can use for fundraising. So when you go to a reverse vending machine, they're run by Tomra, and they have an app and they can generate a barcode. And what we see lots of schools doing, it's quite a simple tool, is that they'll then share that barcode. So they'll share it with their parent community, the wider community, you know, and then even, you know, if you've got grandparents out in regional areas, they can take that barcode, just scan it at the machine, and that money will automatically go to the school as a donation. So that's another option. We do get queries about, you know, the standard reverse vending machines on school sites. The one that you see there is not suitable for school sites. We've seen an example of one that potentially is in the previous presentation, but these aren't suitable because they require big trucks to access, to empty them. They've got glass lines in them. So just for work, but for health and safety reasons, they're not set up on school sites. And in fact, when we're looking, or when the network operator is looking for sites, it's got very specific requirements because we need to make sure they're very safe. You'll also hear today from Kylie about the home collection services that can be set up for schools, and someone mentioned that Lane Cove Automated Depot provides them with a bin and comes and collects it. So if you're going down that route, just check what the cost is. There's usually costs, there's different business models. Some will have an annual charge for the bin, some will take an amount per container. So just make sure that you're aware of what those costs are to the school. So just some resources. Goodness me. Some resources for schools. There's lots of resources on the Return and Earn website to help you both with fundraising. So we have a fundraising toolkit that you can download and get some ideas and look at some different case studies. But we've also just recently launched a curriculum package, and that was developed in collaboration with A Squared, E Squared. It's curriculum linked, it's free sustainability and recycling teaching resources from early learning, and we have some great examples of preschools that use Return and Earn to teach very young children about recycling through to stage 5. We've also really just last week launched the Return and Earn impact calculator. You can put in your number of containers and it'll show you a number of different impacts. So how much landfill's been saved, how much CO2's been saved through that. And you've got a slider where you can go, this is the individual impact. If that was in your local neighbourhood, it would be this impact. And if everyone in your community did it, it would be this impact. So that's great. It's water, energy and landfill savings when you recycle the containers. And we've got lots of really great case studies on the website. So, you know, it gives you really fantastic examples of how to incorporate it into your schools that have been really successful. And I should point out in the fundraising toolkit, we've got lots of templates to create signs, social media tiles, bin stickers, really to promote participation and learning and fundraising. I've just got a few amazing examples of some schools that have really successfully
I have to wrap you up there because we're running a little bit
incorporated
behind.
Return and Earn.
Danielle,
Warrelia Public Schools installed over 50 solar panels with the money that the students raised through Return and Earn. The school collected 8,000 containers per semester from the canteen, and they partnered with local businesses that also donated eligible containers to the school. I went out and visited that school. It was all driven by the high school students. They were absolutely amazing, so passionate about it, and that's a program that keeps going, and they're now funding different environmental initiatives at that school. Glendore Public School, who you can see on the screen behind me, they collected over 57,000 containers. Am I muted?
Danielle, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I was just trying to wrap you up because we're running a little bit late.
Am I muted?
Has anybody got any questions for Danielle?
I'm not sure what's happening.
We can.
Sorry.
Does anybody have any?
I can't hear you. Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry, I can't, it looks like Vicky's talking and I can't see her. Sorry. So just, yeah, they've done amazing student support activities, a breakfast club, arts program for vulnerable and at-risk students, and cultural workshops for Indigenous girls. And Bountiful Early Childhood Education Centre has been helping children from as young as 18 months to 5 years learn about the importance of helping others and caring for the environment with Return and Earn. And they returned 2,000 bottles and cans and donated those funds to Food Bank Australia just in the first 2 months. So as I said, we've got that on our website, but for more information, I encourage you to, there's some photos of the case studies. I encourage you to talk to, I don't know why is it doing this? Okay, I'm just going to give up now. Talk to Marta and we will get you out her contact details because it's not letting me go through to the final slide.
Thank you, Danielle.
And that's it from me, but I can't hear any of you for some bizarre reason.
If anybody's got any questions for Danielle, then just put them in the chat. Maybe it was me you couldn't hear. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle. If anybody's got any questions for Danielle, can you just put them in the chat and we can answer them there. Thank you. We're going to move on to Kylie from ReCollect, and ReCollect is a scheme that helps facilitate the container collection for the Return and Earn scheme. Yep. So Kylie, already sharing the screen.
Great. I am the new kid on the block. Let's call us that. Our everything that Danielle said, we are here to support her and the Return and Earn scheme. And very simply put, the new automated depot has just opened on Beaucamp Road in Matraville earlier this year. And just before lockdown, we had our fabulous idea of helping the community get more involved, as in schools and charities, by coming to them. And then lockdown happened. So my great ideas, there's many people I've seen their faces on here and I've had a couple of quick conversations, but really once we've come out of lockdown, I've got my head up for air after the most insane 5 months of helping most of Sydney when everyone was locked down, to say I'm here to help just your 3 LGA schools. Very simply. The reason I say this is because we are located in the Randwick LGA. We discovered the hard way, it's always good, you got to learn the hard way, that by trying to help everybody in 1 or 2 trucks across all of Sydney, it is very simply too big. So we are going to be focusing specifically on the LGAs and your 3 are 3 of only 4 or 5, whereby we, being myself, am your resource to work with any school that would like a new and unique way to be involved in Return and Earn. So very simply, we know how it all works. Danielle's explained that, and it's a brilliant scheme for schools. But the feedback that we get is that schools struggle to either get the volunteer parents or to get parents to continue to bring the containers into schools consistently. So we came up with the concept of, if your school is looking to either raise money for any of these brilliant ideas you've just heard today, or for any other sort of recycling program or environmental program for the school, or if there's a particular charity of choice that your school would like to support, we could potentially help you do that. So very simply put, I'm going to show you this little poster, which we create for all the schools. And what we basically do is we come to you. So instead of the parents needing to collect containers and on the weekends or at night time, take the containers to the depot, our depot, for example, where the trucks go in and out of, or instead of them waiting in the long lines, how about we suggest to them that they get all of that time back and let ReCollect, the Return and Earn service, come to you. So what that, I'll come back to this little poster, which schools who have just started using it, pop them all up around the school, put them in the newsletters and the Facebook pages. But very simply what happens is each school creates themselves a central account, and any family who would like to collect containers at home, or you can absolutely collect them on school grounds, and I'll help you with that too, simply log on to our ReCollect website and book a pickup so that we can come to their house to collect those containers. What they then very simply do is select the school for ReCollect to send the proceeds to. And what we've found has been the exciting part of this, and why a lot of schools have got excited about it, is that parents, the feedback from parents is, I've done it a few times and I absolutely will do it when I have time, but it's so often that we run out of time. You know, we've come out of lockdown and everyone's so excited to have a life again, as we all should, right? So if I can still be involved in Return and Earn, but I don't actually need to leave my house with my containers, I would love to support the school and donate that money to the school. So let's just go through, I'll come back to that, but just really simply, just a couple of little bits and pieces, as you can see there. I think I've actually already explained all of that. I'll go nice and quick. We find that we work with either the teacher who's in charge of sustainability at the school, or the PNF from each of the school. There tends to be a leader of that works with me and how we can let the school know about it and answer any questions. Simply, we set up what we call it a bottle drive. So we pick a date once per term. We give the school 6 to 8 to 10 weeks notice, and you know, they might, some schools for example have competitions between classes, some have competitions between grades, and you say to the school something like, we are saving money for we're going to raise money, and we'd like parents to help us raise money to fund, for example, one of them's building a vegetable garden at the school, one saving for some new reusable bins for the school. Just as you described before about bintrim and some of the questions around funding some of these brilliant resources, maybe if the school had a particular resource that they were looking to fund, the ReCollect service may be a unique way to help you fund it. And when you say to a parent, I'm asking you to do something and change your behaviour at home and start collecting containers at home, and I'm going to give you the reason of why you're going to do it, and that reason is it's going to benefit your child in this particular way, parents are much more likely to do it. So dangle the carrot with something really exciting and why you're asking them to collect their containers, and then our service, we're here to facilitate that for the school. Now, what we found, as you can see there from the outcomes, the first couple of bottle drives that we've had, we had a few just before and in another state as well, in the ACT, as Danielle explained, whereby the first term or two that a school participates, you know, this is really new. And consequently, you know, was it 20 or 30 families in the school, for example, participate? And by the second term that you do it, or the third term that you do it, people realise it's very easy to collect these containers at home, and I might get involved the next time. So we find that typically it doubles and triples and quadruples the amount of money that is raised each term, which is a nice trajectory and trend. You can see there on the slide that we also provide all of the great outcomes as a school that you can achieve. So that's a running total that not only the person who donates, but the school on their central account will have a list of every single person or family who has donated to the school, how many, on what date, and all of the outcomes as a school that they have achieved. Now, absolutely, as Danielle said, what's really important to understand is that each automated depot across the state either operate or try to operate something similar. We're a little bit different in the fact that I used to be a teacher myself, so I think I've got a pretty decent understanding of the logistics of schools and, you know, the slowness and all the little bits that go with it. So I hope that you will find me flexible to help you and understand the positives and negatives that come along with it all. And the way that we've designed it is very simply that there is no upfront cost or no ongoing costs ever. That's not how we want to do it. We want to keep it really, really simple. So what we simply do is when a school says to us, we would love to give this a crack, we say to the school, we as the Return and Earn automated depot at Matraville are going to cover all the costs. So we're going to hire, we've got trucks on the road every day, and we've got drivers, and we've got our app. So any family in your school that would like to participate, the full 10 cents goes to the school for that term on that period of time. What we then do is we say, if that's worked, and let's iron out any issues, it always is. You know, some parents might find it hard with an app or anything like that. Pass them all to me, so you don't have to worry about that. Like, I've got a team that can help them with that. But what we then say to them is, the second term, the next time we do it, what we simply do is deduct 3 cents from the 10 cents. So in other words, 7 cents for every container goes to the school. and there's no profit in this at all. What it simply does is cover the cost of our truck and our driver, make sure they're insured clearly, and that the app is operating and working for you. So it is as simple as that. There's no annual costs, as we said. We don't have bins, we don't have reusable bags, nothing like that yet. We keep it as simple as anything because, you know, lockdown stopped all our fabulous plans. As the year goes, we'd love to get some reusable bags going, absolutely. Some of the schools like Randwick Boys and Girls High Schools, they're going to use their own bins, and they're just going to, you know, our truck's going to drive past and we're going to pick up not only from school grounds, but we're also going to pick up from some of the kids' homes. We've got the legend on the call here, Beatrice from Balakan. They were our very first preschool. They do it a little bit differently actually than most, whereby the families bring the containers into the grounds, and Beatrice can chat if anyone has a question there, and they do lots of learning experiences about recycling, and then our truck comes to her early learning centre once a month, picks up all of the containers and deposits them in the early learning centre's account for them to use to buy more reusable products. I keep it as simple as that. Don't want to go too long or anything, but I'm here to help. As I said, we're new. So we, you know, people will go, what is this? How does it work? But we're very simply an app and a website. We'd love to see you in the depot, or of course, we'd love to service you and the community. And the good thing is a lot of people in the community have heard of us. When everything was shut down, we were able to operate as we just pick up from outside people's homes. So we're completely COVID safe. We don't touch anyone, speak to anybody. It's completely contact free. So the community all got to know us a lot over that lockdown, and our fabulous drivers and staff at the depot. So hopefully a few of the parents might have got a whiff of this already, or if not, I'm here to help you all.
Thanks, Kylie. That sounds fantastic. Has anybody got any questions for Kylie?
Hi, I'm really sorry. I've just got a quick one. You know how you said that you can set it up so that the funds get donated back to the school?
Yep.
Is there an option to choose a charity to donate to if the school wishes to?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
So we have at the moment nothing as fabulous as all of the return and earn ones. We've only got about 150 at the moment, but what we can absolutely do, so I'll give you an example. The grilled restaurant chain have just asked us to donate every container. Our truck's gonna come to all of their restaurants. They selected Lymphoma Australia. So I contacted Lymphoma Australia and coordinated that all of the bottles and all the containers go straight to them on their behalf. So we can absolutely do that for you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Anybody else? Quick question for Kylie?
Yep. This is Sandra. I've got a quick question. So when you say the money is returned to the school, how is that done? Does it go into the school's bank account, or does it go to the school via the Department of Ed accounting system, or however that works?
Yeah, so think of it like a bit of a central account, so that the school has a login, and it's typically either the treasurer at the school, or it could be the principal or the teacher in charge. And what happens is the money from all of the people donating sits on that central account until the person at the school chooses to redeem it. So there's no, it's not like a bank account that earns interest. So we suggest that schools very quickly hit the button to redeem it, and we make sure that the funds would only go to the school's bank account. Yep.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'll show you, I can absolutely show you that and do a little demo, for example, on a school account. And it's literally click of the button, enter the BSB and account number of the school or PNF or PNC bank account in the school's name. And our finance team will double check it and send it for you. Yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. Thank you.
One quick question for Kylie, if I could. Joe Teresi, Waverley Council. Kylie, wonderful initiative.
Great, thanks.
The size of the bins, 240s, 140s, 660s?
Yep, so we don't have the bins yet. We're really working on that next though. So I'd love to have a chat to you about that for our plans for next year. At the moment, what they simply do, so for example, some of the schools just use existing bins and they just put the bin liner in it. Okay, and then the day of the pickup, they pull the bin liner out, tie it off the top, and I either work with the facilities manager of the school or the teacher to facilitate how our driver will pick up those bags. But they use their existing bins. We don't provide any, and there's no, because I guess the important thing is we've got it very simple at the moment because we're so new. But
Right,
the
so the driver
wheelbarrows
picks up
for this.
the driver picks up the bags and throws them in the back of the truck.
Sure does. That's right. Every school and person customer has a little code. Sorry for the logistics of this, but yeah, everyone has a 4-digit code. They stick that on their bag. The truck gets filled with bags. They fill like the hundreds and hundreds of bags a day. They get taken to the automated depot on Beaucamp Road. Our team have 2 to 3 business days to count the containers. And on your account, your code, you say on there, you nominate either a charity or your school clearly, or yourself if you want to put it into your own account for us to on-send that money to. So it's all automated. Yeah, which is great. And you get all your receipts. So if it's for a charity and it's a school, all receipts and everything are all on there as well.
Right. Can the collections be on a regular basis, basis, or on call?
Both. So you have the option of setting it up to be a recurring. So some restaurants that have just started after lockdown are recurring, like the grilled restaurants as an example. What we typically find is that schools are liking us to come fortnightly or monthly. By monthly, it's pretty busy. But for people's homes, so this way you can see the poster here. If you're saying once a term, that's 12 weeks. That's a fair amount of containers, and some families will just have a few bags full in that time, but some have heaps. So a couple of examples of some schools have been whereby some families have said, I'm gone too long.
I'm going to have to cut you off there. But please, everybody, we'll forward on Kylie's contact details and please ask her any questions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm running a little bit behind. I'm going to have to move on.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Kylie. Would you like to unshare your screen? Next, we're going to hear from Anne Thompson. Anne's the founder of the Sustainable Schoolwear, Sustainable Workwear and Worn Up. And Worn Up works with schools and other organisations to help recycle old uniforms and textiles. Anne, if you'd like to present now, but we are running a little bit behind, if you wouldn't mind just keeping it concise. Thank you.
No worries at all, Vicky, and thank you for having me. And it's terrific to see so many familiar faces from the different councils that we work with. Essentially, we take non-wearable school uniforms. We do tend to get a lot of wearable uniforms. We rehome what we don't process. We take uniforms from corporate, so I'll show and tell. This is a Rowing Australia shirt that was not able to be used in competition. We collect from schools, 72 schools. That's turned into a stool. I don't know if you can see that very well. And then that stool, when they're done, it comes back to us and it is turned into other things as well. So what we started to do was to realise that as a school manufacturer, that we asked the question about what's happening to the uniforms that we make. That was about 3 years ago. We did some research. Every school we found threw out about 100 kilos of non-wearable uniforms. We thought that that was reasonable enough when you extrapolate it out to want to collect those back and do something with them. The aim for us is to keep them out of landfill. We stopped producing uniforms about 12 months ago because we realised there's just too many. And then we've focused on Worn Up since then. We have one school that we still supply. But essentially what we do now, we have a national program, we have a corporate program, we have collections which are sponsored by the council for the schools, and we have schools that choose to collect without that sponsorship as well. It's going really, really well, and we would have taken about 200 tonne out, which is over and above the target we had with the EPA by early next year, which is absolutely fantastic. But it's with the support of the schools and the councils and the corporates who are essentially our pioneers, because we are offering this. We're one of probably about 2 or 3 in the country doing it, and it's going really well. So it does get a bit smelly at times when some of the uniforms come back. We do tend to work with uniforms. We're experimenting with bags. We essentially got a huge amount of uniforms back and went, okay, what do we do with them? We looked at soft to hard options. The stool that you saw is called FabTech, made out of fabric, and then we look at soft. So we've made a textile leather, which is great for kids to experiment on doing, because we're very much about the education. That's out of a uniform. And we've made everything from dog beds to whatever we could to keep it out of landfill. And I guess that was really our difference, that we didn't have a product in mind when we started. We just look at all the options around what we can do. We even made a little drawing. I don't even know what to call it because my kids are all grown up, but it's actually just something the kids put their drawing things on and draw on it in the backyard or something like that. So essentially, we're now partly sponsored by the EPA. We're now national. We've got a strong corporate client base, and we're very keen to continue with the schools. I'm doing my master's in sustainability, and I firmly believe that education is the key to driving change. And it was wonderful to have the council involvement. And thank you, Vicky. So sorry, any questions? Very happy. I didn't do a presentation because I think sometimes it's better just to tell the story.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So yeah, the Waverley, Woollahra and Randwick councils are working with Warner at the moment and have places available for schools. But at the moment, I know for Waverley, we're just working with schools. Does early education centre want to get involved in this? Are they able to do that, Annie?
At the moment, we focused on uniforms, which I don't believe the early education centres will use, only because to actually manufacture something, we have to have a guaranteed composition of material. So, and we only work across 3 fibre groups, which is natural fibres, blended fibres and polyester. If we started to collect from just normal clothing, residential clothing, I think we'd be swamped. And also we can't then provide the volume that we need to go into manufacturing. But there are things that we can do. We have started collecting back natural fibres in very large volumes. We take about a tonne a month at the moment. We're hoping to take that back to community gardens and school gardens and anywhere that needs soil nutritional products that we can turn into, at the moment, we're just mixing it with worm juice. They're very, very welcome to participate from that perspective. We did it with Sheridan, and I think it was covered in The Guardian. We did it for Sheridan for 100% organic sheets. So something like that. We want to see the kids see it being circular in whatever way we can. So if someone's got an idea, we're very open to working with them. But at the moment, it's more the school uniforms.
Okay. Thanks, Annie. If anybody's got any questions for Annie, do you mind putting it in the chat for her and she can answer them there because we didn't need to move on. Thanks so much. Our last speaker today is Andrew from Clean Up Australia. He's the Community Relationships Manager at Clean Up Australia, and he's going to talk about what resources they have on offer for this topic.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for giving up your Tuesday evenings for sustainability. I don't have a show and tell. I've got a presentation that I can share with you all, and I will keep it brief. I know you've got to get onto some new things. Have you got my screen now?
Yep.
Fantastic. So I'm sure you're all familiar with Clean Up Australia, so I'll keep it fairly brief. We're all about bringing communities together, so bringing them together in meaningful and positive ways so that people can take action. And we're aiming to build a future that protects and restores and regenerates our natural environment. So what's available for schools? Schools Cleanup Day is coming around again next year. So in 2022, it will be on Friday, the 4th of March. So our early bird registrations are open. Some of you might have got an email from me recently. So feel free to jump on the website. I'll put it in the chat, a link to that in the chat, and register for Schools Cleanup Day early. You can lighten your workload for term 1. And just a reminder that you can register a cleanup for your school on any day of the year. So it doesn't just have to be on Schools Cleanup Day. You can do it on any day, and you can do it more than once as well if you want to do a cleanup once a term. We've also got some curriculum linked lesson plans available. And I'll also quickly mention our Recykool platform. So for Schools Cleanup Day, you can register. We've got 2 kit options for school. We've got one for preschools and primary schools, so with some smaller gloves and smaller bags, and then also an option for secondary schools. So it's just on the website. Make sure you just jump into the right stream and we can send you the right kit. Our lesson plans, we're currently in the process of updating them with Cool Australia. So they'll be available for schools come Schools Cleanup Day on the 4th of March. So they're going to be updated to the new curriculum. We're going to add some new lessons in there as well. And we're also going to have some for learning at home. I have everything crossed that we're not back in that situation again. And finally, this is a new initiative that we're working on called Recykool for Schools. So it's an online train-the-trainer style program for teachers. We're in the process of having it accredited for professional development, so that can count towards your PD. And it's still in its pilot phase. So we've got a module online, and at the moment, I'm seeking as much feedback as I can from teachers, and particularly some engaged teachers like yourselves that are sitting here on a Tuesday afternoon. So any feedback that you have on the current modules as it exists now, or things that you need at school. So any feedback that you have for things that you need in regards to waste and sustainability and recycling at school, I'd like to hear that and see if we can help you out with this module or in another way as well. So that's it from me from Cleanup. You can always jump on the website there, cleanup.org.au, and I'll stop sharing there. I'll pass back to Vicky.
Thanks, Andrew. So how do they test out the Recykool?
The Recykool, I'll pop a link into the chat just now. So you can also just go on to the same spot where you register a cleanup, and down the bottom of the page, and you can register there and get access to that, and yeah, work through the modules there.
Right. So do you have any quick questions then? Just pop them in the chat if anything comes up. Andrew, I think somebody's just asked, Lisa's just asking a question in the chat now. Thank you very much. Now we are running a bit behind schedule, so apologies for that. I think we were going to do a bit of discussions in breakout rooms, which we don't have time for now. So I think I'll just ask if there's any other questions for any of the presenters that are still here, or if anybody's got anything they'd like to share, if anybody's already doing any of these initiatives and they've got something to share about that.
I'll just say to the schools that I was in contact with about sharing some of their experiences in the discussion time, I'll contact you and make some case studies based on what you were hoping to share with everyone.
Okay, that's a good idea. Has anybody got anything they wanted to add quickly now, or any further questions? No, great. So myself and Woollahra and Mandurah Council just wanted to quickly outline what's available through the councils. So I will just share my screen, just go over that with you. Where's it gone? Right. Can you guys see that? I'm just working off two screens, so it's confusing me. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So at Waverley Council, we offer a commercial waste and recycling service for schools, as well as a garden waste collection. And we'll send these slides out to you so that you can hop onto our websites and have a look for contact details. Joe Therese is our manager in charge of that. He's online at the moment, so you can put some questions in the chat if you've got any questions about that. We've got a no waste education programme for primary schools. That's free of charge, and it's around changing behaviour, around recycling right and minimising waste. And we mentioned earlier on that all the councils have the Compost Revolution programme, and schools and childcare centres can get free compost bins and worm farms. So you can just head off to Compost Revolution website and have a look at that. There's a great tutorial that you can do as well, and you can do that with students. There's the school, the school uniform and recycling with Worn Up that we've just heard about. Waverley Council is doing a trial of that next year, and have a few places left for schools if they'd like to join up. We have problem waste drop-off stations at the customer service centre and the library for things like batteries, lead glues, printer cartridges, and that type of thing. For any other materials, if you're not sure how to dispose of them, we've got an online guide on the Waverley Council website, and it's got heaps of a list of different items that will tell you various ways you can dispose of them and recycle them. And we also have some bin stickers available for school bins, for playground bins. If you need some more of those, then get in contact. As I said, you can, all the links are on these, and I'll send them out to you. I think Pamela was going to talk about Woolara's resources.
I'll just quickly run through it. So you've already talked about the Compost Revolution, and there is a free code that schools need to put at the checkout. I think it's 3 council free. So when you are logging into not purchase, but get your compost bins and worm farms, there is a code that you need to put in, which we can pop into the chat. The school uniform recycling is probably, we've talked about that, but you can get in contact with Michelle to discuss that a bit further. The waste education workshops, we can do those for schools and preschools, early learning. Just get in contact with us and we can organise that for you. We've got to Keep Australia Beautiful, trying to recruit primary schools at the moment for waste education workshops for next year, if you're interested in that. We've got an online disposal and reuse guide if you want to check our website for alternative ways to get rid of items for reuse, or problem items, and where to dispose of them. And special events we can do for schools. We're pretty limited in this area, so we can only do about 5 bins, and there are a few conditions with that. So you can get in touch with me or Michelle if you want to talk further about that. And e-waste, we collect e-waste for residents, but we can collect e-waste from schools. It's sort of a new area and service. So if you want to get in touch with me, we can talk about how we can potentially do some e-waste pickups from your school in the Woollahra area if you're interested in that as well. So that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Pamela.
If you do mind if I just, sorry, if I can just say on the Compost Revolution staff, hello everyone, I'm Jodie, who sort of manages Compost Rev now. Schools and childcares are welcome to actually unlimited amounts of compost bins and worm farms, and they are for free. And Vicky can, the council officers can definitely distribute the free code. What I just ask is, when you enter the address, you definitely include your school or childcare name so that we know it's a school or childcare, because otherwise I have to then contact the person who's put their details in just to make sure that it's for a school or childcare.
Thanks, Jodie. Julian.
Okay, so for Randwick Council schools in the area, we have yellow recycling bins. So we supply the bins and also do collection for schools at no charge. It's fortnightly. You can drop off lots of different items at the Randwick Community Recycling Centre at no cost. Obviously, people would like it to be picked up instead of having to take it somewhere. And Recycle Smart can collect many of these items, and they end up dropping it off, a lot of those items, at the recycling centre. There is a charge associated with that, but I guess they need to be paid to provide that service. And then we have a waste education officer who can come to your school and offer an incursion. Thanks, Vicky. You're still muted.
You're muted, Vicky.
Thanks for staying with us till the end of 50. So we've got a few minutes over. I know Glenn from Observatory Hill Education Centre had to hop offline already, but he did want to mention about the incursions and excursions that they can provide. So if you're not sure about them, please go and have a look at the website, Observatory Hill Education Centre. And I know Andrew wanted to say a few words about the directory, the Sustainability Educators Directory. Are you still with us, Andrew? No.
No, it's not here anymore.
No, gone. Okay. Did we have anything else, Michelle and Julia?
I think that's all, but perhaps when we send out the follow-up, or if people have got ideas for sessions for next year, feel free to type them in chat right now, because we're certainly looking at planning for next year, what we're going to put on the program. So if you've got things that you'd really like us to cover in the new year, please send your ideas through in the chat now or via email in reply to the follow-up email that you'll receive.
Yeah, so we have been recording the session. I know there's a couple of questions about that, so we will make that available, and we'll try and compile some of the presentations and all the resources and the links and the contact details that people have talked about. But there's we've heard quite a lot of presentations and quite a lot of information today, so that might be next week by the time you get to all that. Okay. Thanks so much, everybody. Please get in contact if you've got any other questions, and we'll send all the resources out to you soon. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Vicky.
Thanks so much, everyone. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.